so someone sent me an image of Garnet saying, "Kids, don't be racist." And I thought it was a pretty funny joke, but he told me it was real. I told him I didn't believe him and I wanted context, so he linked me this video. Let's check it out.
Hey, when we're older, let's get married. Ha!
What an asshole!
You can't get married.
Why not? Black people can't marry white people.
Kids, don't be racist.
This is the cheesiest job I've ever done. Stuff like this doesn't actually happen in real life.
Whoa there.
Are you kidding? It totally does.
Just because this has never happened to you doesn't mean it doesn't happen.
Oh, wow. I'm sorry. Seriously, I didn't know. And when people act like it's not real, it makes it feel even worse.
You have to acknowledge racism to work against it.
I've learned a lesson, sir. I see now what I've never seen before. I'm cured. Praise God.
Okay, so the message of this PSA is pretty obvious, but I still should explain it because if I don't explain it, Steven Universe fans think I'm missing the point of the message, and this PSA was made exactly for people like me, even though anyone above the age of 5 would know what the message is, and you're not deep for understanding it at all. Garnet is part of a cheesy 80s style PSA telling kids not to be racist, but one of the kids really isn't into it because he finds the message to be obvious and he believes stuff like this doesn't happen in real life. People having a problem with interracial couples is still a thing in our modern times. There's a black girl in my Discord server who told me a story about how she was into a white boy, and her black teacher told her she would be dirtying up the black community if she had a kid with him. There's a double standard I notice where dads are cool with their sons dating outside their race but not their daughters. So yes, people having a problem with interracial couples are still a thing in the modern times. But, do you know what is a bit of a bigger issue? People having a problem with same-sex couples. 90% of people who would have said anything about those two boys saying, "When we get older, let's get married," would have had a problem with them being the same sex and not different races. What was going through the mind of the kid in the blue jacket? Two boys holding hands? Aw, that's cute. Wait a minute. They're different races. Oh, this is completely unacceptable and degenerate.
It's Garnet from Steven Universe.
Kids, don't be racist.
Cut.
I have a question. Which one was legalized first? Interracial marriage or same-sex marriage? I am so confident that same-sex marriage came way later than interracial marriage that I'm not even going to do the research. I'm just going to ask my editor Joshua to do his own research and put the evidence on screen for me. It should be just a simple Google search. I would do the research myself, but I'm so rich and important, now I can ask people to do my research for me. Jar, stop recording your YouTube videos and get down here to clean the toilet. Yes, boss. But in all seriousness, I actually agree with the blonde kid. Stuff like this doesn't happen in real life. Is it possible that in real life, two boys, one black, one white, said they wanted to get married when they got older, and someone said, "Hey, you're the same gender, you can't get married"? Also, black people can't marry white people. Sure, something like that could happen. But I highly doubt anyone would not have a problem with them being the same gender, but also have a problem with them being a different race. And most people who hate mixed race couples hate them because there's a chance they could breed an interracial child. Yes, same-sex couples can have a child, but it's far less common. The only way I could see this as being possible is that the kid in the blue jacket was raised by his parents to see interracial couples as a bad thing, but his parents also didn't want to teach him that gay people even existed. But I think that's extremely overanalyzing. This would have worked so much better if it was a boy and a girl than two boys. Trying to make the PSA more progressive and inclusive actually muddied the message a little bit. There's a ton of anti-LGBT stuff in the black community that we almost never talk about. I've even met a few black guys who believe that the LGBT community is white nationalism. I guess I'm just a little bothered about this because I recently discovered my personal trainer is a black Israelite, and we got into an argument about who had more rights, gay people or black people. He told me that any gay slur would be considered a hate crime. And you can say whatever you want to a black person, even the N-word, and nothing bad will happen to you. Which I completely disagree with. I mean, way more people have been canceled for using the N-word than the British term for a cigarette. We had a black president, or at least a half-black president. As far as I know, we haven't had a gay president, at least an openly gay president. Pete Buttigieg didn't even come close to winning. As someone who's neither gay or black, I'm just gonna say I think gay people have it worse in America. At least from what I've seen. People not liking interracial couples is not just a problem for black people, it's a problem for all races. Because you need two separate races in order for it to be interracial. Now, I don't think this PSA is trying to say that interracial couples is only a problem for black people. I'm just saying that for the ones watching this video who do think it's only a problem for black people. Ironically, this PSA kind of goes against its own message. They're treating gay couples, really young gay couples, as if they're a normal thing that most people don't have a problem with. I highly doubt that's what any of the people who worked on this think, but it does kind of come across that way. I understand there might be a few people in my comments section completely missing the point of this video and taking the least charitable interpretation possible. Please understand, I'm not saying people who don't like interracial couples are a problem. I'm just saying people who have a problem with same-sex couples is a way bigger problem. Like, it's not even close. So there's another Steven Universe PSA, and personally, I don't think it's as bad as the last one, but I still want to talk about it. Understand in my Steven Universe is Stronger Than You Think Part 2 video, I said I was done with Steven Universe completely. But that's because I thought the show was cancelled and gone for good. Unfortunately, I was wrong. I was right that it was cancelled, but it's not done for good.
All right, class. Can anyone tell me who invented the light bulb?
Thomas Edison!
That's not entirely true.
That is correct. Thomas Edison did not invent the light bulb on his own. He did work on the light bulb, but pretty much every invention from the 18th century onward was worked on by a team of scientists, not just one. No one person can create a modern-day cell phone, but a team of scientists can create a good processing chip.
The light bulb could more rightfully be attributed to Lewis Latimer, the black inventor behind the filament inside the bulb.
His invention made light bulbs affordable and efficient enough for the general public, bringing electric light into households around the world.
That is incorrect. The light bulb was already invented by 1878. He did not start working for the lighting company until 1880. Now, he did greatly improve the light bulb, and technically so did Thomas Edison. Plenty of light bulbs were invented before Thomas Edison even got started on it, but most of them weren't really all that good. Should we contribute the invention of the smartphone to the guys who made Gorilla Glass? Don't get me wrong, he greatly improved the light bulb, and I am happy you're talking about his accomplishments. He does deserve more credit. But unfortunately, you can say that about all scientists. Do black scientists matter? Absolutely, but all scientists matter. Who's the first man to land on the moon? Neil Armstrong. Now name one single NASA scientist who worked on the rocket. Exactly. The reason why Thomas Edison was given credit for inventing the light bulb was he invented the first light bulb that was actually practical, and he was extremely good at marketing it. Remember roughly 8 years ago when everybody was saying that it was Tesla who did all of Edison's work? And everybody was talking about how he was trying to give free energy to the world. And we can't do it now because we don't have his level of intelligence. Even though plenty of scientists nowadays are far smarter than Nikola Tesla, and his free energy idea required the Earth to be a solid object with a frequency, and his math was completely off.
Wait, is that it? Hold on. We're not going to mention why he invented the filament? To create a better standard of living for people who had only just been freed from slavery?
Okay, did it improve the lives of black people after they were freed from slavery? Yes, because it improved the lives of every American citizen? Because it was cheaper and more efficient? Did he specifically do it to improve the lives of black Americans after they were freed from slavery? Maybe. Yes, he did fight for black people, but I found nothing that says he specifically made the filament to improve the lives of black people. But I hate the way she said, slavery? Guys, slavery is taught in schools all the time. It's ingrained into American history. Fucking everyone knows about it.
These textbooks are incomplete. There were black Roman warriors.
Were there black Roman warriors? Technically, Rome was a big country and had a lot of territory in northern Africa. And in northern Africa, there's a lot of race mixing, but I would say they were closer to Arabs than they were to black Africans.
Black medieval knights, black classical musicians, black cowboys, black fighter pilots. Where are they?
Okay, I hear what you're saying, but what's more important is that the girl from Owl House is canon in Steven Universe. But in all seriousness, all these things are already taught. If you played Red Dead Redemption 2, you would know there's black cowboys. There were also Mexican cowboys, Native American cowboys, and even Chinese cowboys. People know there were black fighter pilots. There were fighter pilots all over in World War II. And it was known as World War II. World. People from all over the world were fighting in it. Are we taught that black knights are a thing? Yes! In one of the stories of King Arthur's knight, this one knight fought this other knight and he discovered that knight was his half-brother. And his half-brother was biracial, although they didn't fully understand what biracial was back then, so parts of his skin are white and black. I always pictured him looking like a zebra man.
Vitiligo, maybe?
But here's the thing, the reason why you see knights, cowboys, and all these other people depicted as white is because the overwhelming majority of them were white. How would this even be taught in schools? These are knights, brave warriors who fought for England and many other countries. They were above peasants, but only slightly. They were basically the Navy SEALs of their time. Also, a few of them were black.
I worry about you humans because you only live, about 100 years? You rely on these stories to know your own history.
Wait, we learn about our history to learn about our history? My mind is blown. I love that the black guy and the woman are smiling, and the fat white guy looks so nervous, even though he's clearly the director and he put this whole thing together to begin with, so I don't know why he looks nervous.
Thanks to systemic racism.
Wait, that's systemic racism? What?
Most of your storytellers prioritize white accomplishments, which leaves you with an incomplete picture.
This is a white majority country, so most of the accomplishments are going to be made by white people. In every grade, students are taught about black history, but they're taught about the big ones. George Washington Carver, Martin Luther King. They're not talking about, some black cowboy or anything like that. How many of you watching this video can name a real historical cowboy? I'm guessing it's Buffalo Bill, and that's it. Of course humans don't have a completely clear picture of history. There's only so much we can learn, so much we can pass on, and only so much evidence to look through. Are we supposed to talk about every single last black inventor, or any and all accomplishments of black people? There are also black samurai, but I'm still gonna picture an Asian samurai because the overwhelming majority were Asian. When I think of a slave owner in America, I think of a white man. But if you want to include black men in everything and tell the full story, then we will also need to talk about black slave owners, which there were a lot more than most people think.
Ask yourself as you're learning history, who's telling the story? Was this modified to make white readers comfortable? Are major details being left out that would credit people of color and center their point of view?
I don't know. Is it? Was Black History Month invented to make black people feel more comfortable? You know, if you want to talk about an actual, really great black man who's underplayed, talk about George Washington Carver. Most people you ask about George Washington Carver will just say, "Oh, him, he's the guy who invented peanut butter, right?" Which he didn't. The technique we use for making peanut butter nowadays was invented by a Canadian man. And yes, his version of peanut butter was created before George Washington Carver's version of peanut butter. But saying George Washington Carver invented peanut butter is an insult to his legacy. George Washington Carver was an absolute genius when it came to agriculture. He discovered that peanut plants rejuvenate the soil, while cotton plants kill the soil. Thanks to him, there's plenty of more food to go around. After all, the first culture is agriculture. But because he didn't do something cool like be a knight and raid a village and kill people, who cares about him, right? A knight is way more important than a guy who has saved millions of lives.
Honestly, I should have asked for script approval before agreeing to do this.
You can say that again.
Steven Universe. My favorite love-hate show. It does a lot of things really well, and it does other things terribly. But unfortunately for me, the show has ended. Luckily, I have these cheesy Steven Universe PSAs to talk about. A lot of people mistranslated my first Steven Universe PSA video, where the message was, you need to acknowledge racism in order to fight against it, while they're also ignoring the much bigger problem of same-sex couples, which about 10 times the people have a problem with, and even then that might be an under-exaggeration. I'm cool with bringing a robot girl to meet my mother and father board, even if she is a different make and model than me. But if I bring home a male robot, I'm probably going to be taken out of the will. Some people even accused me of trying to pit gay people and black people against each other because I briefly mentioned that there's a lot of homophobia in the black community that we almost never talk about. And now I know why we never talk about it. Because if you even briefly bring it up for 5 seconds, apparently you want a black on gay war. Now my second video covering a Steven Universe PSA was received far more better. But even then some people mistranslated me, I suspect some of them did it on purpose, claiming I wanted black people to be erased from the history books. So I just want to give a quick disclaimer. I'm not really against the messages they're spreading in these PSAs. I just think they don't go about them in the best way, and sometimes the way they reach their conclusions are a bit bizarre. So the two PSAs we're going to go over is see color and be an ally.
Colorblindness is our game because everyone's the same.
Oh my god. This is communist propaganda. It must be destroyed. Oh, sorry about that, everybody. I'm 14.5% Liberty Prime. On my motherboard side of the family, that is.
Everybody join our circle, doesn't matter if you're
White or black or purple. What the? Whoa. Hold up a minute here. Ugh, who wrote this? I think it kind of does matter that I'm purple. I mean, I'm purple because I'm literally an alien.
Yeah, when people send me this video, this is why I didn't want to cover it, because I definitely agree with this part. And if I disagreed with it, I would be a massive hypocrite because I did a whole video on why allegories for discrimination don't work. You can't really compare being black or gay to shooting lasers out of your eyes. Someone who shoots lasers out of their eyes is absolutely biologically different from most people. Taking a race that exists in real life and turning it into a monster might be taken the wrong way by a few people. Basically, what I'm trying to get at is you can't really compare being LGBT or black to, you know, shooting fucking lasers out of your eyes. I'm a fire in my leg. And gems are even further from that. Their bodies are made out of a hard light construct. The main biological similarities they have to humans is something they choose to have through shape-shifting.
Adding purple people into a lesson about human racism makes no sense.
Yeah, that is pretty weird.
I think people like the black, white, or purple thing because adding a fantasy race in there helps distract from the actual racism black people have to deal with.
Whoa, now, that's a bit of an odd conclusion to come to. Now, I'm glad this child says, I think, they're not saying it as a fact, but in the Christian song, red and yellow, black and white, they are precious in his sight. Obviously, black and white are supposed to represent, well, black and white people, and red and yellow are probably supposed to represent Asians and Native Americans. But I have heard some people say, I don't care if you're black, white, brown, Native American, blue, or purple. I don't see color. Everybody is equal to me. While there are a few people with blue skin, yes, that is true, you can look this up. It's extremely rare and is caused by either chemicals or birth defects. But when they bring up purple people, I think they're just trying to make a slight joke about what they're talking about, and not thinking to themselves, yes, I will bring up purple people to distract from the racism black people face.
Right. My experience with anti-black racism is really specific.
Is this one of those pandas eat shoots and leaves moment? Like, I get what she's saying, but you can translate it as anti-black racism, as in she has to deal with people who are anti-black racist, as in they're against black racism, but I get what she's supposed to be saying. What she means is racism that is anti-black.
Other people of color experience other forms of racism too, but you won't see any of that if you don't see color.
So this is one of my major issues with the term person of color. It translates into literally anyone who isn't white. The problem I have with this term is I truly believe that further down the road it is going to cause problems. If you don't know someone's race, it's fine to call them a POC until you do know their race. And if they're cool with being called a POC, yes, you can call them a POC. The problem I have with it is it feels like you're saying those are the others. And it could cause division by lumping everybody who isn't white into the same category. And I also feel like the writer's using this line,
Other people of color experience other forms of racism too,
is somewhat implying that white people never experience racism or can't experience racism, which I disagree with. She could have said how other people experience racism, then how other people of color experience racism. Remember in either 2016 or 2017 when that white guy was kidnapped by those 4 black people and they tortured him and made him drink toilet water? I remember this black girl who I was friends with saying, "Whoa now, those people aren't racist, they're prejudiced, there's a difference." To which I said, I don't care about prejudice plus power. In this situation, they have power over him. This is racism. If you're more concerned over the definition of racism than people being blatantly racist, then shut up.
Dude, so this entire public service announcement could be a ploy to avoid talking about racism altogether.
Whoa now, that's a bit of an odd conclusion to come to. The whole term colorblind racism kind of seems a bit odd to me. If everybody was colorblind and we all treated people equally, then yes, racism would end. The problem is, everyone has to do that. It's good not to treat people differently because of their ethnicity, but always remember, just because you don't treat them differently doesn't mean everybody else does the same. But overall, I do agree with the message of this episode. You can't really compare being an alien to being black or white. But the reason why I wanted to talk about this PSA is they go against their message in basically the next part.
For today's lesson...
Cheese it, Greg! Let's get out of here! Oh, why did we do this?
What? The anti-racism shorts?
We're not human, so who are we to speak for human people of color?
Well, yeah, you can't do that, but you can speak for yourselves. You're allies.
Allies?
Explain.
Well, anyone can be anti-racist. It can't only be up to marginalized people to speak out. That would be totally unfair.
So, I agree that you shouldn't compare a fictional alien race to a black person. But no, you also shouldn't do? Compare a white person wanting to help out a marginalized group to an alien species wanting to help out a marginalized group.
But it does. I used to think racism wasn't my problem because it wasn't hurting me. But every time I didn't fight it, I let systemic racism continue.
The problem is the definition that Steven Universe has for systemic racism is that we don't briefly mention in classrooms, by the way, there were a few black cowboys, and the light bulb was invented by Lewis Latimer, which is not systemic racism. Don't get me wrong, you can make a good argument for how our history books do whitewash our history, which is a form of systemic racism, but Steven Universe really didn't go in the best way about it. I mean, they could have used the Egyptian example. It's such an easy one to make. But all in all, while these Steven Universe PSAs are far from perfect, I think Greg says it best himself.
And sure, talking about this stuff means you might mess up. But you can learn and you can care.
And I really can't argue with that logic. But one thing I can say is that the crystal gems were around for over 5,000 years, and there was plenty of slavery and racial discrimination going around at those times, and they did nothing to help with it. They are a part of the problem.
Oh my God!